This conference will now be
Okay, good.
recorded.
So let's continue with kashrut. So we spoke last week about one of the major concepts that comes up, and that is shishim. What is shishim? How many is shishim?
60 40. Oh no, 160.
60, right? Shishim, shesh is 6, shishim is 60, and therefore things become batel, become nullified when they are in 60. We mentioned it goes by volume and it does not go by weight. And we didn't mention, but there are times that shishim does not apply. And that is, well, there's certain things that don't become batel bishishim. Hello, Batsheva. There are certain things that don't become batel, that don't become nullified when there's 60 there. Okay? Now, things that, well, for example, chametz on Pesach, right? It is that strict, and also because it goes into a different category we'll come to soon. And therefore, let's say I come across a pot that's not kosher for Passover, and I need to kasher it. It's on Pesach already. I need to kasher it. So now I've got a problem, because normally I would boil things up, boil water up in it, and whatever is in it comes out, and I have 60 times the water times whatever comes out, so we're good to go. Except on Pesach, 60 times doesn't work. Chametz does not become batel even in 60. Okay? Now, another place where we don't apply, and if something has what's called chashivut, it has a certain importance to it, then it will not become batel by shisha. Let me ask you guys a question. I'm sorry.
Like garlic?
We'll come to that
Oh,
soon.
okay, sorry.
Okay, that's a different category. That's not because of its importance. That's because it might be davar charif. Okay, we'll come to that soon. Now, can I just buy frozen broccoli in the store? Why not? What could be wrong with broccoli? Broccoli is God's creation. It's a plant. What could be wrong with broccoli?
Do we process it?
Bugs.
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 Okay.
Raw, unprocessed broccoli, right? What could be wrong with broccoli? Nothing's wrong with broccoli. The problem is what's hiding inside those broccoli leaves. When I buy fresh broccoli, there are lots of little buggies in there. Lots of little buggies in there. And one needs to be careful to get rid of them. Now, frozen broccoli, we could well assume that they are not alive anymore, right? Or even the fresh broccoli. I
Can you just
mean,
wash them?
can we just wash them? You can't just wash them. You need to wash them in a way to make sure you get rid of all of the little buggies.
No.
Okay.
I mean, how about the frozen one? Like, for example, wash
Okay.
the frozen
So
one.
the frozen one, right? So they're all dead in there, right? And even the fresh ones. I mean, come on, Rabbi. There might be some little bugs in there, but we certainly have 60-1 broccoli to bugs. Right? I'm not paying by the bug, I'm paying by the broccoli weight over there. I mean, how many bugs are in there? But don't I have 60? So what's the problem? Unfortunately, there is a problem. And the problem is that there are certain, as we said, exceptions to Bitul. And that is if you have a complete entity, a complete bug, right? And it is as the good Lord created it. You've got a full, what's called a beria, a full being, a full creation. That does not become batel, does not become nullified in 60 times it. And therefore, that is why if one really likes the broccoli, the broccoli, the cauliflower, there are if you go onto the hello, if you go onto the the star K or the CRC, right? The star K, actually, someone wrote me today, and they were asking about how to check cilantro and parsley. So all of these kosher sites, they like the cloth thrip method, a certain type of cloth that you use. The CRC also gives an alternative to the cloth thrip method. Okay, but these need to be checked, right? Or you could pay a little bit more money and buy there are certain that come checked already. The company name is Bodek. What does Bodek mean? Bodek means to check, right? So it comes checked already, and that way you can eat and cook your broccoli with reckless abandon, not having to worry about anything else. Otherwise, it gets a little bit it gets challenging. There are ways to check it, but it needs to be checked. So we're just mentioning, guys, that we have the general rule of 60-1 works. So I asked if that's the case. So what's the problem with broccoli or any of these things that might have some bugs? You certainly have 60 vegetable, more than 60 vegetable, ratio to the bugs. So there are certain things that don't become nullified even when you've got 60. One of those is a barrier, when it is a complete living entity. And that's why when it comes to certain vegetables and certain things, so there one needs to check. Okay, right. If you're buying lettuce in the store, so iceberg lettuce is fine. If you're buying a cut coleslaw, that's fine. If you're buying other things like spinach leaves or anything like that, so there what you want to do is as follows. You want to get those that say triple washed or thoroughly washed. All those are fine. And then you would want to check 3 leaves from that bag. Okay, you check 3 leaves carefully under the light. You don't see any creepies or crawlies, then you are good to go. Okay, why 3? So 3 is something in Jewish law called a chazaka. Chazaka means like an established principle. Once you've checked 3, if you want to get those bags or those plastic containers that have the mixed greens, again, looked for thoroughly washed or triple washed, and then it will have 3 or 4 different types of lettuces there. So you need to pull out 3 of each of the types, and you check it, and you are good to go. If you buy just the iceberg lettuce in the bags, right, which comes the iceberg lettuce and maybe some carrot and some radishes in there, then that does not need to be checked. That is fine. If you buy the coleslaw in a bag, the white, the purple, all of that does not need to be checked.
I have a
Yes.
question. So I buy a lot of most of my vegetables from Wholesome Choice, and I take it home. I have a spray vegetable wash from Trader Joe. Fancy. Just started it. And then I soak them in the water and I wash and I shake it.
So
And that's what I do. And then
take a look on the CRC app.
Okay.
And they'll tell you the steps that need to be taken for each of the different things. Now, I just got the office said, "Oh, Rabbi, can you please check a bag of frozen vegetables that we have in the shul freezer that only has a K on it?" Okay. Now, just a K is as good as the OR. You know the OR in most products, the registered product. Yeah, right. That's not a kosher symbol. We wish it was, but it isn't. Life would be easier if it was, but it isn't. Okay, so the OR doesn't work. A K simply means that the manufacturer claims it to be kosher, and that's their prerogative, right? But unless you have someone that you know there that you can trust, right? So then that is not going to be reliable, right? So that's why we need to have one of the reliable kashrut organizations, and on the CRC, and Rabbi Idlitz also on his app, it gives you a list of all of the different certifying agencies and their logos or their symbols, and that way you know what's good. So they said there's only a K on it. So I went in and I inspected, and it was perfectly fine. Why? Because what was in there? It was frozen vegetables, green beans, carrots, corn, maybe some peas, carrots. I don't remember, but it was a whole bunch of things which don't need to be checked. So in that case, as long as it's just those vegetables in there, it hasn't been cooked, it hasn't been processed, there aren't any additives, that's all that is in there, then we are good to go. That is fine. Okay?
So the only issue with frozen vegetables is bugs.
Is the bug issues, correct.
There's nothing else that
Correct. Right? You want to go to Costco and buy the frozen blueberries or the frozen pineapple or mango. Right? Not only that, we were discussing last week. If you want to go into a supermarket and we mentioned by fish, there's a problem that there's cross-contamination.
Yeah.
Right? But certainly at the fish counter where they're doing all the work over there. But you want to go into Ralph's or Costco and they have cut mango, cut pineapple, cut that. That is okay.
Any of that?
As long as it's not a bug issue, that you see, you thought you were going to come here and find all the things you can't do. You find all the things that you can do,
I
right?
know.
Right?
Surprising.
Right? So there,
What textures, like Costco used to have some texture, I think Canadian, cut mango or pineapple.
beautiful.
And it was like, then they stopped carrying it, and I'm like, oh.
Okay, but okay.
Now,
So
yeah,
look,
yeah,
things
now I
like
know, yeah.
things that don't need a hechsher. First of all, realize that the kashrut industry is like this crazy amount of billions of dollars industry, and it's not that many Jews, right, that are making this into this 8 or 9 or 10 billion dollar industry. There are many, many non-Jews who feel, right, who don't have the greatest trust of government or of companies. Can you imagine that? Right? In our world today, people don't trust the government or companies. Well, believe it or not, there are many people like that, and they like the idea of having an extra pair of eyes on it, right? So therefore, right, so if something is basically available with a hechsher, without a hechsher, I'll buy the one, even if something doesn't need a hechsher, I'll buy the one with the hechsher to help support those companies that are supporting or that are hiring, I don't want to say supporting, that are hiring, it's a business deal, that are hiring these kashrut organizations because they serve a tremendous benefit to me. So like, right, but in case like that, where the mango or the pineapple in Costco, so that will not need, okay? Now, don't get confused and think, oh, so then I can just go to a restaurant, or if I'm at a hotel and I want to go to the breakfast, the continental breakfast that might be free along with my room, right? So there, oh, it's just some cut fruit, right? Or the restaurant, if I get some cut fruit, what could be wrong with that? Now, it's very different because when they're packaging things in the supermarket and putting, right? So there's no crossover that's going on. But in a restaurant kitchen, right? I worked a summer in a hotel. So I met Natalie. That was the good that came of it. But what goes on in that kitchen, man? It's crazy. I mean, the pressure and everyone's shortcuts. We had to. One of the rules where we had to wear our white shirt and our black bow tie. Right. So we're all hot. So we all have our thing unbuttoned and the bow tie like that. So the boss said to my brother Josh, he said, Josh, why isn't your shirt closed? So my brother says, Teddy, it's hot as hell in here. So he says, how do you know how hot it is in hell? And he said, I worked here 3 summers. Right. So yeah. So yeah, hotels, restaurants, things are fast, are moving over there, and things you cut with this, you cut with that. There's no relying on there not being things that are getting mixed up one with the other.
Yeah,
Okay.
the bacon's getting cut with the same knife as the.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly the cheeses are being cut with the same thing that they're using for salad, right? And we'll soon see about onions and things like that, right? So they're right, it's a problem. Yes.
What about that's not in the bags?
The what?
Vegetables, loose leaf, thank you. Loose leaf stuff, when you're just buying, I don't know, dill,
Spinach.
parsley,
Yeah.
spinach, that's not bad.
Yeah. So those will need to, if you're buying just loose,
Yeah.
fresh, that will need to be checked and go onto the CRC app,
Okay.
and I'll let you know how that can be checked. Though, what a person can do is you could put all of these different, leaf, whatever
Herbs.
Thank you, Herbie. Right, put the herbs. Right, you could put it into like a stocking, hopefully a new stocking. Okay, right, and that way, right, that has super fine,
Like mesh.
it's a mesh. It's a
Oh, when
super
you
fine
cook
mesh,
with it.
and you cook with it in that.
Oh,
Right?
But not like for salad, okay.
Yeah. When you're cooking with that,
When you cook.
when you're cooking with that, so that's a way that nothing's
That's a good idea.
yeah, things aren't coming out.
But if it's
But
not
they're
new,
dead
it's
then.
160.
Hmm?
Yeah, but they're dead by then, so 160th would work. or
No, a barrier.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying. A barrier when it's a complete creature. So then it
I
has
thought it was like a live creature.
no, it doesn't have to be alive. So then it has a certain importance to it, right? And it does not become batel.
And I was-
Okay.
I was joking about the used stocking.
Okay. Okay. Now, yes.
Forgive me if I missed it. Sometimes I see leaves in a packaging and it says thoroughly washed. That's not good.
So thoroughly washed. So I think over there in a package thoroughly washed, so there you just need to check 3 of those and that should be fine.
So it's the same status as the triple wash.
Thoroughly washed equals triple washed. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. Now, something else that doesn't become batel, nullified in 60 is if I have some spices. Right? Now, spices are typically not going to be an issue. Spices, right? Most spices, right? You again, use your CRC app. Most spices, you look up, right? They have a whole category of spices. Most spices don't need a hechsher. If it has a hechsher, beautiful, right?
You mean, don't need to be washed? We're not talking about whole.
I'm talking about the spices that come in a bag or in a shaker. Yeah,
Or like a thing of
ground.
garlic,
Yeah,
right?
1 second.
Oh,
They don't
ground, yeah.
fruits and vegetables, food. Give me a spice, guys.
Moroccan.
Hmm?
Moroccan spice. Those are like always like
Or cinnamon.
no, but those are like mixes, right? And those
Oh,
are
I
hard to
see.
find actually.
Za'atar.
Okay, let's look up
That's
That's the
cinnamon.
one we were looking for.
Let's look up
It goes on
cinnamon.
rice and Persian rice.
Oh,
Sumac.
begins with the Z.
Sumac. Yes, sumac.
Sumac.
Oh,
Chili powder.
Sumac.
No, but that was a basic.
Just 1
there's one that begins
second.
with the Z.
Za'atar, those
Those
are
are spices on CRC.
Cilantro, dried, right? Recommended without a hechsher. Cinnamon, ground, chopped, powdered, whole. Recommended without hashgacha.
That's on CRC.
Is on CRC. Yeah,
Where do you go? I see food and I see food.
I'm under food.
In the food.
I'm
and
under food.
spices.
how about turmeric?
Turmeric. TU.
I use,
Thyme, dried, chopped, powdered, whole. Recommended.
I use fresh
Um,
turmeric.
Tiger nut flour. What do you say? Turmeric.
Yeah, it's like
Turmeric. ground, chopped, powder, or whole are recommended even without hashgacha. Okay. Now, a lot of these spices that come in the container or the bag do have a hechsher on it, right? But again, it doesn't need to have a hechsher. Basically, this is just spices that are just ground up, right? There's not a bug issue with it, so it's not going to be a problem.
And if
Okay.
there's a mix of them, so you check every
So
ingredient?
check what's there. Yeah.
What about herbs like parsley or basil that are dried and shredded or whatever?
Okay. So 1 second. Parsley dried, ground, chopped, powdered whole, recommended without hashgacha. Parsley fresh may be infested. See fruits and vegetable list. And then they tell you what you need to do with that. Right? Now, pecans, unflavored nuts, unflavored raw nuts are acceptable without hashgacha as long as there are no added sensitive ingredients. Again, when we're talking about things that just are natural and grow from the ground, right? So as long as you don't have the bug issue, you're okay. In this case, nuts which are merely blanched or pasteurized are considered raw. If they're roasted, dry, oiled, cooked, boiled, canned, flavored, colored, or have added kosher sensitive ingredients, require a reliable hashgacha. This was the case even on Pesach with these nuts.
Except the chopped pecans, right?
Chopped pecans I had an issue with.
They were processed, I think, with peanuts or something.
Something like that,
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, the chopped pecans was Rabbi Eilis's book pointed that out, right? Yes. So again, there's a lot. So, but let's say the spice is a problematic spice. They are not going to say it's batel b'shishin. It becomes nullified 60-1. Why? Why will that not become nullified 60-1? Because what's the whole point of 60-1?
It's diluted.
It's diluted, and you're not going to taste it. Spices,
Right, you can taste.
right? The whole point I'm putting it in there is for me to taste it, right? So the whole thing of shishim is you're not going to taste it. Well, spices, that's not going to apply to. But again, usually spices are not going to be a problem, okay? But in the case where they are, that's okay. Now,
An
just one
herb
second,
like
Janet.
fresh.
Yes, David.
The issue of doing it on purpose would apply, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You can't use the 61.
Correct. Aim of atlin issa lechatchila. We can't go and say, hey, they say how dangerous a little bit of knowledge could be. Hey, I just learned that anything more than 60-1 ratio is good. So like we mentioned last week, let me take my 300 ounces of chicken soup or meat broth, and let me put in less than 160, right? 5 ounces would be 60. Let me put in 4 ounces of milk and make it nice and creamy, right? I can't go ahead and do bittul. If there is a mixture, then bittul can be applied in order to permit it. Yes, Anna.
But wouldn't it apply to the spice? So when they grind the spice, right? The concern is that something non-kosher, I don't know what would fall into that spice. But wouldn't you have to taste the spice and ask the non-Jew if they can taste the non-kosher spice within the spice?
No, so we're talking about
Right?
if the
That's the
spice
deal.
is if the spice itself is non-kosher for whatever reason. I'm not sure how.
But like what? That's what I'm
Right.
trying to figure out. Like,
Yeah.
what does it
So
mean?
okay. So
Once
let's
it's
say
in the spice-
okay. So Dr. Lisa mentioned garlic, onions, right? So these are right, and those can become compromised. Okay.
Okay.
And let's say I cut an onion with a meat knife, right? And then I add, so that became meaty onions. Okay.
Okay.
Now I want to put it into my dairy onion soup. There's a
Not with the
problem,
spice,
right? And there, because they give off such a flavor, right? 60 would probably not work in that
But I'm
case.
still confused because wouldn't it be tasting the meat in the garlic that would be required versus, right?
Okay,
The
so
thing was to taste the meat,
okay,
not the onion.
so we're going to come. Let's come to another concept,
Okay.
and that will help clarify that. Okay, now just a few other things. Okay, yeah, let's do something first, then we'll come to that point. Now, let's say I have a meat spoon, and I use that to stir, or dairy spoon, and I use that to stir my meat soup. So there I need to have 60 versus what? Meaning I need to have a volume of 60 soup times
One spoon.
the size, that spoon that stirred in there. Now, 1 second, Rabbi. Aren't you going a little overboard over here? Right? I put in a spoon. So, Rabbi, you're concerned that the spoon absorbed and now it's going to expel. Right? And you're saying I need 60 times the whole spoon, or at least the part of the spoon that went in there. But I took a spoon out. Right? That spoon wasn't a piece of cheese that just dissolved in my soup. I took it out. So something less than, I should need less than 60 times the whole spoon, right? Yes. But how much? We have no way of knowing. And therefore, in order to play it safe, we say you'll need to have 60 times the entire, not the entire spoon, but the entire part of the spoon that went in. Okay? So that is a little extra something that we throw in. However, let's say I use this dairy spoon to stir up 3 ounces or 1 ounce of cheese. Okay? So it's a dairy spoon. It was used for 1 ounce of cheese. Okay? It couldn't have absorbed more than 1 ounce of cheese, right? It didn't absorb 1 ounce of cheese. The proof is I still had some cheese left over in my pot, right? But it did absorb. How much did it absorb? I don't know, but not more than 1 ounce of cheese. So now, if that's going to go into my meats, I don't need 60 times that whole spoon. I only need 60 times 1 ounce. Okay? All right? Now,
Sorry,
yeah.
That's if you did it like one after another, but if that's a dairy spoon, I know we talked about it last time.
I'm gonna come to that.
Okay.
Okay?
Sorry.
That's me. The first thing, and then we come to the next.
No, that's fine.
Okay? Now, let's say some milk fell into my chicken soup, but I've got more than 60, right? And as I'm demonstrating what happened, I was holding the cup and a little bit spilled, right? As I'm demonstrating, what do? I spill some more, right? And now the two of them together is more than the 1/60th, right? So there is a concept of choser v'neur. It wakes up. That first, 1/90th that fell in, right? And now another 1/90th fell in, which is 2/90ths, which is 1/45th, which is more than 1/60th. I'm going to be careful with my math over here. I've got Anna here, right? But so far I think I'm correct. So 1/90th and another 1/90th, 2/90ths, 1/45th. That's more than 1/60th. It wakes up and it becomes a problem.
What if you put more broth in it?
Am I allowed to add more broth in order to do bittul?
No, because then it's intentional.
I can't go ahead and deliberately be mevatel the iser.
So the whole soup
So your
cannot
neighbor
eat
gets
them.
a nice.
Correct.
So you're giving that soup away to your neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that.
Sad.
So you can't dilute it.
I'm sorry?
You can't dilute the soup.
No.
Who's gonna know?
You know,
According
that's
to Adam, Hashem's watching you.
that's right.
Well,
Adam's right on
you
that.
can't look the rabbi in the eye and you've been to this class, then you
Yeah.
know.
You know, look, with all of these things, I think Rav Soloveitchik said like he said like Mi ka'amcha Yisrael, who is like your nation Israel? Oh, I said there's an even better story than that. There was in some Hasidic town going into Pesach, right? So it was right before Pesach. And the Rebbe said, "Bring me some chametz." He said, "Bring me some chametz." He said, "Rebbe, I want fine. Go to all the Jewish homes. Bring me some chametz." Okay, the Rebbe said. Right? They go to all the homes. There's no chametz to be found. Right? And then there was some contraband. There was something that the Tsar had prohibited people from having. And he said, "Bring me some of that." Right? No problem. Right? Right? And he said, "Mi ka'amcha Yisrael." Who is like your nation, Israel? Right? The Tsar with all of his police and his secret this and secret that. And if you get caught, you get thrown in jail, and who knows what else could come. Right? And people go on with their life. And here's Moshe, the Torah, from thousands of years ago. There's no police. There's no KGB. There's no one who's gonna, right? And you can't find a morsel of the chametz around. I think Rav Soloveitchik or someone had said, like, who's like our nation, Israel? You know, you have a religious boy and a religious girl. Okay, they've been dating, and now they're getting married. They haven't touched each other. They were shomer nigia. They were careful not to even touch each other. And now it's the wedding night. And they go to the hotel after the wedding. And she sees a drop of red on her undergarment. And what do? They stop. And they wait and they find out. Right? Is this a problem? Is this not a problem? Right? Who is like your nation, Israel? Right? Who knows? God knows, and that's and that's how we live our life. That's how we live our life. I went to I shopped at Trader Joe's last week, and I didn't know, but they charge the prices looked very good until I realized it was per item and not per pound.
Yeah.
It's okay. So I got 4 sweet potatoes, 99 cents. It sounded great, but it's fine. It's still fine, right? But then when I got home, I checked the receipt. And I saw they only charged me for 2. So I was there again Sunday or Monday, and I'm checking out. I said, I have an unusual complaint. What's the complaint? I said, I was here last week and I bought 4 sweet potatoes. I was only charged for 2. So I'd like to pay, the 99 cents times 2 for the 2 that I took. They were delicious. I didn't pay for. And she says, that's never happened before.
I did that once at TJ's, but it went.
Okay, I guess not with her, right? Whatever the case is, right? Look, that's how we're supposed to. That's how we need to be. Right? Who knows? The good Lord above knows, right? Now, if it would happen to fall in there, so let's say I'm at 145, and then some more stuff falls in, right? And now I'm back at 160. So that comes to the issue of what's called Hanan, which is an acronym for Chaticha Naasit Nevela. Okay, Chaticha, the piece, becomes a whole piece of Isur. Let's understand. Isur is that which is prohibited. Okay, let's say some milk falls on a piece of meat. and I don't have 60 times meat times milk. So now this meat has been compromised, right? 3 ounces of milk falls onto a 10-ounce piece of meat. Okay? Compromised. Okay. What can I do? The meat's no good. Now that piece of meat falls into this big bin with 80 pieces, with 50 pieces of meat. So now I could say, what was my whole problem? 3 lousy ounces of milk. So it fell into that piece. It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough of bittul, right? It wasn't 60-1. But now it fell in. I got a lot more than 60-1 against the 3 ounces. Are we good to go? Sadly, we're not good to go. Why? Chaticha, that whole piece becomes, as I say in yeshiva, a shtick iser. A shtick, which means a piece of prohibited status. Now, I understand that by basar b'chalav, milk and meat. Milk and meat is a very strange phenomenon because milk is perfectly kosher. Meat is perfectly kosher. When they come together, now it became usur. So I understand min haTorah, where do we, based on Torah law, where do we apply this concept of chanan, of chaticha nasit nevela, that the whole piece becomes asur? That's only by basar v'chalav, because there we have this phenomenon, permitted, together, asur. So that became this whole entity now of a mixture of milk and meat, and therefore I'll need 60, not just against the original 3 ounces, I'll need 60 versus that whole piece. If there'll be 60 pieces in there, so then it could or should work. We'll keep it simple, right? Then let's say it could work, right? But here it won't work. Why? Because chaticha naaset nevela. That piece becomes not meat with 3 ounces of milk. It becomes one 13-ounce piece of treif. A shtick isser. A piece, a clump of isser. Now, that is based on Torah law when it comes to milk and meat. But when I have just some non-kosher that fell onto something kosher, right? So there, perhaps I shouldn't say. There, well, that's the amount of non-kosher, right? But Ashkenazim, not Sfardim, Ashkenazim extend this chaticha nasit nevela to all things that are asur. So once something was compromised, we no longer view it as being, 2 ounces, 3 ounces of problem. That all becomes prohibited. Now come back to our soup case now, right? So even though more fell in, right, accidentally, right? But once I didn't have the 60, right? So then that whole soup became prohibited. Okay? So we said a case, right? 190th fell in. Okay, we're good to go. Oh, now another 190th falls in. 290th, 145th. The soup is compromised, right? If it is milk going into a meat soup, then even according to the Torah, this now becomes one big isser of soup, right? And I'll need 60 times the whole soup. Good luck to you, right? It's not going to happen, right?
So this makes me sad, Rabbi. So okay, the reason is, let's say that people who's less fortunate, who's making the food for their family, let's say little children, and that happened accidentally and they can't eat that food, but then they don't have extra things to make it, and Are they forced to go home, go to sleep hungry?
In that situation, they would need to call someone and get some help.
Yeah.
The Jewish community is very well geared towards helping people, right?
But
Now,
can you?
of course, if we're talking about a danger to one's life or a danger to one's health, so then one is allowed to eat, right? Even non-kosher, right? If it's if a person is in a dangerous predicament,
How
right?
about, are you allowed to sell the food to your neighbors who
Okay,
doesn't consider
so
benefit from the
so
non-kosher food?
non-kosher, I'm allowed to get benefit from. Basar b'chalav, milk and meat. I'm allowed to cook non-kosher. I'm not allowed to eat non-kosher. I'm not allowed to cook milk and meat. I'm allowed to get benefit from non-kosher. I just can't eat it. I'm not allowed to get benefit from basar b'chalav.
That means you cannot sell that.
So therefore, I would not be able to sell that.
But you could
Yeah.
give it.
I can give it.
Because of the prohibition, because of the inhumanity of the meat and milk? You wonder if it's like an ethical thing.
I don't know. The Torah prohibits it. We could posit, why. Why? I think Rav Hirsch gives a very, very basically basar b'chalav is a chok.
Yeah.
Right? A chok means a mitzvah that the reason behind it has not been shared with us. Right? So what's wrong with milk and meat? Right? Rav Hirsch gives a very, very beautiful explanation, and he says that basically every living what is like it's a plant's life. What does a plant want to do? What does a plant hope to accomplish in its lifetime?
Photosynthesize and reproduce.
Okay, two things, right? Energy, right? Nutrition and reproduction. That's the aspiration of a plant.
Tell that to the
Okay.
critters and squirrels so we get our plants.
One
to
second.
grow.
One second. Now, what is the aspiration of an animal? Right? Nutrition, reproduction.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about for them, right? But they, beyond the plants, they have mobility. So they take their muscle, their meat, and what do they use it for? To be a mobile plant. Basically, all it wants is nutrition and reproduction. That's all it wants. And it takes its added qualities to become a mobile plant in order to be able to gain nutrition and reproduction. Okay? We human beings are meant to be constantly reminded that there's more to life than nutrition and reproduction. Okay? We have a higher calling. Now, if I were to look at a food that represents reproduction and nutrition, milk would be an excellent choice, right? Because milk is what provides nutrition immediately after reproduction, right? That's what the baby lives off of and gains, doubles its weight on mother's milk. I mean, come on. I mean, is this an incredible world we're in or not? Right? So milk represents reproduction and nutrition. And meat, muscle, mobility, basically any mobility is contractions, doctor, of muscles, right? At different points. Concentration gradients of the eon balance inside our cell, right? It's all muscle movement. That's what's happening every time. I mean, it's mind-boggling, right? Every time we move, this muscle. I'm talking now. Move my eyes, blinking. It's incredible, right? So muscle is meat, is the taking that reproduction and nutrition to the next level. A mobile seeker of nutrition and reproduction. Therefore, we need to separate the two. We need to recognize that any added qualities we have should, as human beings, with our thinking and all of that we have, should not be dedicated just towards reproduction and nutrition. We have to live life beyond nutrition and reproduction. So that's an explanation that Rav Hirsch gives to this chok. But really, it's a chok. A chok means a law that the reason behind it has not been shared with us. Not that there is no reason. The reason behind it has not been shared with us. Yes, Alma.
So let's say I have this mix of milk and meat that I cannot eat, and but my neighbor would be very happy to get it, and I'm bringing it to the neighbor, and I have a lot of thanks thrown in my direction. Now I benefited from the pleasure of giving somebody pleasure.
Okay. Yes. And now that they owe you a favor, but I don't think that's considered to get to the level of hana'ah that you are that'll be problematic.
So then it just there is a connection to it. I have now fruit trees that produce fruits, and I cannot eat them.
The first 3 years.
Right. Can I give it to a gardener? Because I certainly will enjoy.
You can let the gardener know he's welcome to help himself. That's how I would do. Let the gardener know he's welcome to help himself.
Do they say the gardener is welcome to?
I think you can let him know that. Yeah.
I will have a pleasure from him.
That they won't go to waste, yeah.
Yeah.
But I can.
You can.
What kind of fruit?
Can her neighbor, Jewish neighbor, eat the fruit within?
You wouldn't want to give it to the Jewish neighbor.
Okay.
You wouldn't want to give it to the Jewish
Fruit
neighbor.
we're eating has been-
I'm sorry?
Is it just the trees we own, or what if we're eating fruit from
Okay.
the market?
So in Israel, one of the certifications at the kosher, like all that I was saying before over here, that hey, if it's growing from the ground, as long as there are no bugs, you're fine. That's here. In Israel, it needs to be properly tithed. There's a lot that goes into this kedusha, there's holiness in the earth. That which grows has holiness, and therefore there are many mitzvot that apply to it. And that's why if you go to the, let's say, the Machane Yehuda, the big open marketplace in Jerusalem, where they have fruit stand after right, they'll all have this tu'udah, a kashrut certification stating that no problem of orla, no problem of truma, maser, all the proper tithing, all the proper steps have been taken. Okay, now outside of Israel, orla, which is the din of the first 3 years, if it's a suffix orla, if you don't know if it's orla or not, it's fine. Okay. In Israel, it's a problem, right? Because there it's a Torah law. Right. Outside of Israel, it's more of a rabbinic law. And when you have an unsurety, therefore you don't need to start checking and what is it. But if you know, then you don't want to partake, and you also don't want to give it to a Jewish neighbor. Okay?
If you have an herb like rosemary growing in your yard, and since the leaves are so
it's only fruits.
Right. Since the leaves are so slender and thin, getting back, if it's pretty self-evident if there will be bugs and you rinse it, do you have to follow the cloth method or? So
the CRC goes on their app goes through that you don't have to do the thrip the thrip things called cloth thrip something like that method. I don't know. So that so you'll need to check it carefully. Look, it's just a few leaves and you could inspect it carefully. Then right, you have to yeah. I remember when I first came, I took this Kashrut seminar that Star K ran in Baltimore, right? And hiding behind let's say I mentioned buying fruits, not a problem. Strawberries is a problem, are a problem, right? By the top there, right there are, and they opened up some and showed us what was going on in there. And they were having a party in there, right? They were really having a party.
too.
Raspberry.
I'm sorry?
Raspberries and poison.
Correct. And raspberries,
Yeah,
that
raspberries.
they say just stay away
And
from.
blackberries.
Raspberries and blackberries, that, yeah.
They're like cancer-free food. I mean, they help you with the cancer thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, they could.
you can get.
Yeah.
So that you can have it, you can get the kosher frozen berries at Costco. So
Oh.
somehow,
That's a good
right?
idea. That's a good
But they
idea.
don't.
No,
have
if it's
the-
berries that need checking, then frozen ones are going to be a
No,
problem.
it has a texture on the back.
What texture does it have?
A kosher sign.
I'll have to look. It has something. Maybe it's not Costco they got it from, but.
Okay,
Okay, and then
yeah.
Willie,
So with like, with
It-
raspberry.
If it is an acceptable kosher, then you're good.
Maybe it doesn't have what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I don't know.
okay,
Is it the OR?
It's not the one.
Okay.
No, I'm saying it doesn't, maybe it doesn't have the berries that I'm thinking.
Okay, then we're pretty safe.
okay, really quickly.
Yes.
If the hechsher is not recognized by CRC or Rabbi Eidlitz or, but it turns out it's like the only hechsher coming out of Peru, and then you read, and it's the certifier is like the chief rabbi who's Chabadnik. Wouldn't you
So
assume that person has Yerusha Hashem enough?
What I do, if I come across a certain certification I'm not familiar with, it's not on the list, I'll send a text to Rav Eidlitz. And for example, just last week, we had some interesting symbols I wasn't familiar with. It was on these grape leaves, right? And I sent him these symbols. He wrote back, the grape leaves used to be OU certified, or they've experienced a great deal of insect infestation and have gone to certifications that will say they're kosher anyway. So that's why I like to find out. I don't know these people. I don't know, right? So I like to find out from someone who does know all the
You can't give the
certifications.
benefit of the doubt if it says it's the chief
I
rabbi.
can give the benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to think the person's a bad guy, but I'm not going to eat it.
Okay. So you wouldn't think that the person would have Yerusha Hashem to follow?
I'm sure he does, but I don't know if he knows what he's doing,
Oh, okay.
right? It's kashrut is not simple. When people ask me, you want to give kashrut? I say, I'm not a kashrut professional, right? With the RCC, I'm working with, I'm involved over here to get our sangak and barberry
How's
bread.
that going?
Good, delicious,
No,
right?
is it kosher
You know,
now? Is it
yeah,
good to go?
that's a
Oh,
sign.
cool.
Yeah, but I'm not a kashrut professional, and therefore I'm only going under the auspices. And I don't know if every person who puts up their shingle is I'm sure they might be very well intentioned, but I don't know if they're a kashrut professional.
Okay.
So that's why,
Point taken.
right? Yeah,
Your level of confidence.
yeah. So I don't have to eat it. I think the person's wonderful, Yerushalayim, but unless I know, then I'm going to pass on eating.
Okay.
Okay, my friends, good. We'll call it over here and pick up next week with our Eino Ben Yomo. Okay.
Can I ask not a personal question, but
Yes.
applicable to me? So I was cutting my brisket, and it was a par of knife, but the brisket was cold.
Cold?
Cold.
You're good.
From the refrigerator.
You're
So I
good.
don't need to do anything.
Yeah, yeah. The
Take it
transfer
out of the-
mediums is heat.
Okay.
Heat or kavush. We'll
I
see
was
some
pretty
others.
Sure, but I figured,
Yes.
hey, I'm coming to the class.
Yeah, you'll need to wash it. Of course, you need to wash it well, right? But the meat.
What do you wash it with? Meat or par of?
It was a dairy knife that you used. Par of a knife.
Par of knife.
So
or
use
brisket?
yeah.
I
So
have a paper towel, but in general, what do you do? Like when it happens?
so don't use super hot water initially, and wash it just to get off whatever. Wash it so you get whatever might be stuck onto it is off, and then you would use a par. Then you can use hot water and a par of a thing.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And you have to do it only in your bathtub. You can't use it. All right.
That's what I'm waiting